Hello, I'm Jennifer Grace, Hay House author, international speaker, and co-founder of Raven and Grace Press. And I'm going to be your guide today for how to turn your keynote into a book to get on more stages. I know for myself that once I became a published author, the doors started flying open for me to get paid as a speaker. I know it helped me get my first TEDx talk and really be able to raise my prices as a keynote. So let's dive in. Here's the framework for taking the keynote that you already have and developing it into a best-selling book. Number one, clarify your big idea. This is your speaking positioning. What is the core message that you want to be known for? What do you believe, teach, or challenge that makes your voice distinct? What problem does your talk solve for audience, companies, or event planners? Your book should not be random inspiration. It should anchor your thought leadership platform and make it crystal clear as to why somebody would book you. Number two, identify the audience that you want to attract. This is your ideal reader, your ideal booker, client. So, who do you want reading this book? Is it meeting planners, corporate leaders, conference audiences, associations, entrepreneurs, or future coaching clients? What does that audience care about most right now? So here's the deal. A smart book is not written for everyone. It is written to attract the exact people most likely to hire you, refer you, or bring you onto their stage. Number three, turn your talk, your keynote, into a clear framework, kind of similar to what I'm doing here. This becomes your signature system, your IP. So think about this. What's the repeatable process, method, or framework behind your talk? Can you break your message down into 3 to 7 memorable steps, pillars, or principles? What stories, case studies, examples, and client results prove that it works? And this is where your talk becomes real intellectual property. A great speaker has a message. A paid speaker has a framework people can remember, apply, and buy into. 4, write the book to build authority, not just to become an author. You want to keep it clear, practical, and engaging. Use stories and examples and transformation points to bring your message to life. Make each chapter reinforce your expertise while delivering real value. Your book should feel like an extension of your best keynote, powerful, useful, and easy to talk about. The goal is not just to publish a book. The goal is to create a book that makes people say, we need this person on our stage. 5, position the book as a speaking tool. Authority plus visibility plus credibility. Use the book to open doors to podcasts, media, summits, and speaking opportunities. Send it to meeting planners, event organizers, and referral partners. Use it to elevate your speaker reel, one sheet, website, and pitch materials. You see, a book gives you instant authority. It says you're not just someone with a nice story, you are someone with a message, a method, and a movement. And finally, build a path from the stage to your offers, monetization, and client conversion. Make the book naturally lead readers to your next step. You can include a clear call to action. Book me for keynotes, workshop, consulting, coaching, certification, corporate training, or event booking. Ask, after someone hears me speak or read this book, what do I want them to do next? The book should not end with, I hope you enjoyed it. It should move people into your ecosystem and make it easy to book you, hire you, or continue the conversation. Keys to writing your book when you are busy. When I wrote Directing Your Destiny, my son was 10 years old at the time. And so I didn't have time to write the book of my dreams. I had to create it. And so I thought about it. I was like, when can I actually fit this in? Well, the only time I could come up with was 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. as my author hours before my son woke up. And so the first day, I just wrote for an hour to see how many words I could write in 1 hour. Back then, it was 500 words. Now, for some reason, I'm able to write 1,200 words in an hour. But anyway, back then, it was 500 words. And I did the math and I thought, oh, wow, if I just write 1 hour a day, I will have my book done in a few months, 50,000 words. And so I created those author hours. And trust me, when that alarm went off the very first time at 5:30 a.m., I pressed snooze like 11 times. And then I got a little smarter. I created instead an alarm, I actually created an event. So when it went off at 5:30 a.m., it said, Jen, do you want it or not? And I did. And I got up every day until I had that first 50,000 word draft. The second tool is to journal a little bit before you pop open the computer and start your author hours. As soon as that computer flies open, all of a sudden, we're hearing that negative self-critic in our head. What if nobody likes this? What if they think this is stupid? What if other people have done this before? All of those voices of judgment are kicking in. What I say is journal first, just to yourself. Get the juices flowing, the creativity. You can use prompts, you can use a quote and respond to it. You can open up any book, take a line and write about what you read. The sky's the limit, but you want to just not have that computer open right away. Number three is to create an outline. So creating a linear outline of everything that you want in the book. If you do that route, you want to start with what is the outcome first. When people read my book, I want them to know X, Y, and Z. I want them to feel A, B, and C. And then you reverse engineer it. When I wrote Directing Your Destiny, I had seen that movie, The Secret. This is back in 2011, by the way. And I thought, wow, we need a manual for this movie. It wasn't telling us, how to manifest. It basically was saying, just make a vision board. And I had done that and it hadn't worked. I had to have gone through so much personal development work and down rabbit holes of quantum physics and also the art of getting your butt off the couch, not just staring at a vision board. And I thought, I want to write a book. I was at the time manifesting like crazy because I had done so much more than just seeing the movie. And so I thought when people leave my book, I want them to have all the tools and practices, like the manual for the movie The Secret that didn't exist. And so that was my outcome. And then I reversed engineered it in my outline. I said, well, if they're going to manifest their dreams, what do they need to start with first? Well, of course, clarity. Who are they? What do they even want to create in their lives? And then I built it like a staircase to get them to the end from there. So always starting with what is the outcome? Another way to do it is more of the right brain way. These are to make 25 set pieces. I think a lot of coaches and experts and entrepreneurs, they have fabulous stories, and incredible scenes and stages of their lives that when they share those stories and they've overcome what they've overcome and gotten to the other side, people will often say, oh my gosh, you need to write a book. Those are set pieces. What I want you to do is write 25 scenes in your mind that they are so good that if somebody produced a movie about your life, they would build a set for each and every one of those. You know, the time you got married, the time you overcame this challenge or that challenge. And so you write down these scenes in your mind. And then when it's time for your author hours, whether that's 3 times a week for 2 hours, once a day for an hour, or maybe even just Saturdays for 4 hours, you look at that list of set pieces and you say, okay, this one wants to be written first. And you just write it. And you don't worry about editing it. And you don't worry about where it's going to be in the book. You just start writing all of these scenes down in your mind. And what happens over time is you start to see a theme and you realize, okay, this has got to come before this scene. And let me move this here. And so it's a different way of writing your book than the outline way. That's very linear, right? Start at the end. What is the outcome? Where do we need to go first? Versus just start writing and then seeing where it leads. Both will work. You can try both and see which works best for you. Next is commitment. And commitment is definitely tied to accountability. It takes real commitment to write a book. It is not something to be taken very lightly. Um, and so bringing in accountability, having people hold you high and accountable, being a part of a writing group so that you tell other people, hey, you know, I want to be a published author. I'm committed to having my first draft done in the next 2 months. Can you hold me accountable? To publish or not to publish? That is the question. So, as you are thinking about turning your business card into your book to attract more clients, to increase your credibility, how do we get it out there, right? There are three distinct ways to publish your book: the traditional way, the self-published way, and the hybrid way. I want to share a little bit about each of these so that you have the education around what is required. So here are the pros of traditional publishing. That's the Hay House, Random House, Penguin and Random, Simon and Schuster, all of those big boy, Ingram Spark, right? Those are the big five traditional publishing houses, HarperCollins. Pros, print distribution in bookstores is easier. Your books are actually going to be in the bookstores, not just on Amazon. An established professional team to work with. There are no upfront financial costs, and there's usually some kind of advanced against royalties. What does that mean? When I published with Hay House, they gave me a $10,000 advance, but I had to pay that $10,000 back in book sales. They gave me 7% of the royalties. So for every book I sold for 19.99, I basically made $1, less than $1. And so before I ever made any money on my book, I had to sell 10,000 books to first pay Hay House back the $10,000. And then I started making money on my book. The pros are literary prizes and critical acclaim are more likely and potential to become a brand name author. What are the cons? Incredibly slow process. So first I had to get an agent. Once I got an agent, then they had to shop my book proposal. Then after my book proposal, then I had to get the deal. Then it was another 18 months. So it can take anywhere from 2 to 3 years or more from the moment you write your book to when it's going to be on the shelf. You also have loss of creative control. They may change your book. You may have no say in the title, in the book cover. Very low royalty rates. Like I said, I only got 7% of the royalties. Some big five only give 3% of the royalties. I actually got a pretty good deal. Lack of a significant marketing help. So Everybody thinks, wow, if I get to be a Hay House published author or I'm with Simon and Schuster, they're going to do all this marketing for me. Nope. They are your publisher. They are not your marketer. They will publish your book. They will not sell it for you. They will not market it for you. So you have to do that yourself. They are also not going to book you on a book tour. I had to book my own book tour. I had to go out of my own pocket and hire a publicity team. I had to market my own book and sell my own book. They were my distributor, yes, which was fabulous because my book was in bookstores nationwide, but they weren't helping me market it. Nowadays, in order to get a book deal with one of the big five, you have to have a huge social media following, at least 100,000 followers or more. Why? Because they're going to give you an advance of $10,000. They want to make sure you're going to sell enough books to get that money back to them. Pros of self-publishing. So this would be if you just wrote your book and had somebody help you get it edited and the book cover and you uploaded it to Amazon. Pros, total creative control over the content and design. It's very empowering. You wrote your own book, you published it. Faster time to market. You can write a book tomorrow and have it up there the next day. Higher royalties. You will get 70% from Amazon of your book. Sell by any means in any global market, you retain all your rights. Niche books can reach a large audience and you can use it to get in the game. If you on your own have sold 10,000 books, you could then go to a Hay House or a Simon and Schuster or a Penguin Random and say, "Hey, I've already sold 10,000 copies." They may be more apt to then bring you on and do a second edition of your book. Cons, you need to do it all yourself or find suitable professionals to help, and that does also cost money. You need a budget upfront if you want a professional looking result. It's not amateur. It's not going to really help you get credibility as a coach if it looks like an amateur product. And also, honestly, sometimes when it's self-published, anybody could do that nowadays. So it doesn't give you that much credibility. And it's very difficult to get your book in actual bookstores. You don't have distribution. Third option, which I think is the best option, which is hybrid publishing. And of course, I'm a little skewed for that because I own a hybrid publishing company, Raven and Grace Press. But I created this company because so many of my writing students, who I had helped over the years write their books and birth their books, were frustrated. Many of them didn't have 100,000 followers and couldn't get an agent and couldn't get a book deal. And then many of them didn't want to self-publish because they thought it would look amateur and it really wouldn't give them a credibility as a coach or a speaker or an expert and an entrepreneur to be self-published. So there's this new lane. It's called hybrid publishing. And let's talk about the pros and cons of that. The pros, faster timeline. At Raven and Grace Press, we do 4 to 6 months. Your book is boom, on the shelf. Like I said, with traditional publishers, it can take up to 3 years. Creative control. You have approval on the cover, the title, and all the content. Higher royalties. Like I said, with traditional, you only get 7% or maybe even 3% of the money of your book sales. With hybrid, you usually get 60 to 70% compared to lower traditional. You have a professional team support that does your developmental editing, your line editing, uploads it to Amazon, designs the book cover, gets you distribution. With Raven and Grace Press, our authors are in 347 bookstores. They're online with Books and Books, Barnes and Nobles, and Amazon. So you have access to all that distribution. And personalized hand holding. You're not just another author. Author gets lost in the shuffle. When we work with our authors, they work with me for 2 months every single week, how to market their book, how to monetize their book, how to get booked on podcasts and morning shows. They work with my partner Raven for 2 months, doing all of the editing, all of the hand holding. What are the cons? Well, there is an upfront financial investment required. You have to pay for the publishing package. This is the other thing that I learned. A lot of hybrid publishing companies, they weren't transparent with their pricing. So a lot of students would come back to me and say, this is before I started Raven and Grace Press, and they would say to me, I started with this hybrid publishing company and they told me it was going to be 8,000 to publish the book, but now they're saying it's another 6,000 for marketing and another 5,000 for PR, and it was just ticking up and up and up. And so sometimes there's not good transparency. So you got to really watch out for that. At Raven and Grace Press, we are very transparent. It's $12,500. What you see is what you get. There is no upsells, there's no additional. Everything is included in that package. You don't get a large advance, right? You have to pay up front. But on the back end, you get 70% of the book sales. So yes, you don't get the 10,000 on the front end, but on the back end, you make all the money. And marketing support can vary. I have heard a lot of hybrid publishing companies not helping with the marketing. We at Raven and Grace Press, we hold your hand through the entire marketing. Our last 12 books actually went to #1 bestsellers on Amazon. And so the reputation depends on the publisher. Not all hybrids are created equal. So if you would love the chance to win a 12,500 book publishing deal with Raven and Grace Press, why don't you enter our next contest? Write your book in 60 days contest. And I love this contest. You can go to ravenandgrace.com/contest, see when the next one is starting. It's only $97. It's very minimal. And we meet with you online for 2 months in a row. There's a community of writers. You're either with Raven or myself. We're helping you write your book, get those words onto the pages. The community holds each other accountable for getting it done. And then everybody at the end uploads their first draft, not the perfect one, their first draft into the portal. Raven and Grace will then pick the top 5 of all the manuscripts, and then the community votes on the one that wins. So it's actually not up to Raven and I. The community will vote on the winner. So we have this big celebration call. The 5 winners are announced. They each read 3 minutes of an excerpt of their book, and the whole community votes on who should get the book deal. So even if you don't win, the good news is in 2 months, you've gotten the book out of your head and into the world. And whether you go on to publish with Raven and Grace Press, or you want to self-publish or go the traditional route, your book is done. At least the first draft is done. So I hope I see some of you all in the next contest.